welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a little bit different. It's a bit more serious than ones I usually make, but I hope that you'll stick with it and watch it, and hopefully it will help you in some way. I'm hoping I can get this all filmed in one go during Toby's nap time, but if I don't manage to and you see a change in lighting or if it's later in the day, that's why. Because I really don't want to rush this. I don't want to just throw it all at you in really quick succession. I just want to tell you the story as it went and how it unfolded, and try not to leave too much detail out. So today's video is going to be all about my journey with postnatal depression. This is a video that I've wanted to make for quite a while now. It's something I've been putting off. In fact, I did try and make it a long time ago and I deleted the footage, and I just didn't feel ready to share my story really. For those of you who don't know, I went on This Morning a couple of weeks ago with the lovely Siobhan from Channel Mum, and I talked about my journey with postnatal depression, but because it was such a short piece, I didn't manage to give the full story, and obviously it was just a short overview to mainly highlight that so many of us mums do have these thoughts and feelings, and that we're not alone, and it is quite a normal thing amongst us mums to have these feelings. So I thought I would make a video for you. A few of you have asked me since that feature on This Morning if I could share my story in a bit more detail, and that it would help them by sharing my story. So I thought I'm going to finally sit down and do this, and I'm not going to waffle on anymore. I'm going to get straight into it now. Just a quick disclaimer as well before I get into things. If I don't show much emotion in this video, it's because I'm so used to talking about this now, because I've talked about it so many times, that it doesn't always hit me that much anymore about how I felt back then. So I've dealt with it. Like, this has been, I mean, Livy's nearly 5.5 now, so this has been something that I've been dealing with and coping with for a long time now. So if I don't break down, I might break down, I don't know, then don't think that I'm not emotional. I am. I just have learnt to deal with it. So I've made some notes here just because I didn't want to leave anything out, and the thing with my postnatal depression is a lot of it is quite blurry now. Looking back, I was in such a fog with it that I didn't really remember everything that went on. So I've spoken to Matt about a few things that went on, and a couple of my friends that knew about it, and they've helped me piece together a few details. And yeah, so I'm just going to go straight back to the beginning, and this for me is now what I realise was the root of my postnatal depression, and that is that I did not have a good pregnancy at all with Livy. I obviously was overjoyed that I was pregnant. I couldn't believe I was carrying this little life in me. She's well and truly our miracle baby, but it is the root of why I was so depressed. I'd just like to point out as well that I have had postnatal depression with Toby as well. Not as severe as I did with Livy, but I think that's because I had my coping mechanisms in place, so I've managed to prevent it from escalating as badly as it did with her. So back to my pregnancy with Livy. So I had HD, which is hypomesis, which is severe morning sickness, and I had that throughout my entire pregnancy. I think I had like 1 week where I wasn't being sick, and I was sick sometimes all day. Sometimes it was easier, I didn't have as much sickness through the day, but pretty much every day I was sick. With that came a lot of weight loss for myself. I lost a lot of weight while I was pregnant. So when we got to about 28, 29 weeks, they were measuring my bump, and I wasn't growing as much as I should have. Obviously they thought this was at first just due to my sickness and due to the fact I wasn't managing to keep much down on me. But around 30 weeks they decided that they wanted to send me for a growth scan. And this is where things started really amping up for me, and I already started getting really bad anxiety. And yeah, so I went for a growth scan at 32 weeks, 34 weeks and 36 weeks, and she wasn't growing. My placenta was starting to fail. That was discovered at 36 weeks, and she just wasn't growing the way she should be. She wasn't putting weight on sufficiently, and she was estimated to weigh at 36 6 weeks, they estimated her to weigh around 3 pounds. So they just came to the decision that it would be better for her to be born earlier, and she'd probably have a better chance of putting on weight outside of the womb. So I was induced at 38 weeks with her because they decided to try and give her another couple of weeks to see if maybe she'd have a growth spurt, but they did one more scan and no. So I was induced, I gave birth, it was a perfect labour. I can't complain about that at all. Compared to pregnancy, labour is a doddle for me. I don't find it that hard at all. I think it's because I know I've got the end goal of a baby. So yeah, she was born and we had the neonatal on standby and everything like that, just because they thought she was going to be so small. But in the end she weighed 5 pounds and 9 ounces, so she was a brilliant weight for what they thought she was going to be. Obviously she was still tiny, she was very short as well, which made her look even smaller. But she had no issues after she'd been born. She just didn't cry when she was first born, so that was a bit of a concern, but she was fine. Feeding wise, she was a bit of a struggle, and we only know now, after having Toby, that she has got a tongue tie. It was never detected with her and she still has it now, and the only reason we know she has it is because of, like I said, with Toby. It was discovered with Toby at 6 weeks that he had a tongue tie, and he had it snipped at 8 weeks. So for me, the root of all this was the fact that I didn't think I was going to bring a baby home. They were telling me all these percentages that she wouldn't survive, that she was too small, that she might not breathe properly. And that obviously just set all these things into my mind that made me think, well, I'm not bringing a baby home, so why bother bonding? So some people think now that that's mad, like surely you'd want to bond with this baby for as much time as you would have with them. But for me, I kind of just shut down and was like, no, I'm not going to bond with her, what's the point? I'm not bringing her home, I'm not going to be a mum, so I'm not doing it. I was very, very stubborn with my mind, and that again set everything into motion. I'd obviously had all these stories about that rush of love that you get when they're first born, and I just didn't feel it. Obviously I loved her, like I knew she was mine and I had that love, but it wasn't like a rush over me like, oh my god, I love this child, I need to take care of it. So when we brought her home a few days later because she was kept in just to keep an eye on her, just to watch her feeding, her temperature, because she couldn't maintain her temperature. When we brought her home, Matt's mum and dad were here, and I kind of just kept that facade on of, yes, I love my baby, I'm a good mum, and I just kind of went into robot mode and fed her, changed her, bathed her, all those things you're supposed to do as a mother. I just did them, and I kind of just went into default mode of I have to do these things and went along with emotions. There was no feeling behind it, it was just I have to do this to keep her alive, so I'm going to do it. When we first came home, I wanted to get out straight away. Like we went out the day that we came home to the shops. I just wanted to be out of the house. I felt like if I was out of the house, I didn't have to deal with her as much because she was in her pram, and I'd have other people cooing over her and distracting me from my thoughts. So I just went along with it and I went out. But then as she got a little bit older, I wanted to go out less. I went to a few groups and I started going to them less, and I just slowly retreated into wanting to be at home. And I'm going to tell you a few examples of thoughts that I had during my journey, but there are so many that I couldn't sit here and tell you every bad thought I ever had, because I'd be here literally all day. Because as you'll see, for me, discovering I had this took a long time, so I had nearly a whole year's worth of thoughts that I went through. But a few of the big ones for me were that I would lay in bed at night with my hand on her belly and just make sure she was breathing. And it was really weird because I didn't bond with her, but then the fear of losing her was so overwhelming that I did things like that, where I would lay my hand on her and make sure her belly was rising and falling, and wouldn't go to sleep without my hand on her. And I barely slept anyway. I would get about 10-15 minutes at a time, and I'd keep waking myself up to make sure she was still breathing. And then if you watched me on This Morning, you'll have heard the one about where our bus goes down a long road and round a roundabout next to a cliff edge, and I was convinced this bus was just gonna crash off the side of the cliff, and she was going to die and I was going to survive, and I'd have to tell everyone about her dying, and I imagined her funeral and everything that comes along with losing a child. It just all rushed through my head in about 5 seconds. There was times where I'd be walking down the street and I'd think someone was going to snatch her, that I thought strangers were going to come up to her in a pram and stab her. There were just so many horrible thoughts going through my head, and I didn't recognise that these weren't normal. I just thought I was being a paranoid first-time mum that was a bit anxious. I just thought I had a little bit of anxiety, and that was it. I didn't realise how dark thoughts were in my head. So this went on and on and on, and obviously I started weaning her, and I'd imagine her choking, and she started toddling a little bit, like pulling herself up on things. She wasn't walking until she was around 15 months, but she was pulling herself up all the time, and I imagined her smashing her head open. I'd have visions of her covered in blood, just all sorts of awful thoughts in my head all the time, constantly, and it got to a point where I couldn't take it anymore, and I thought she was better off without me, that she didn't need a mum that was always worrying, that was always thinking she was going to die, and that she just would be better off without me. So I rang Matt and I said, can you come home? And I can't even remember why I asked him to come home, and I asked him and he can't really remember why I asked him to come home. But I said, oh, she needs a bottle, so can you feed her? She was around 11 months old at this time. So I said, can you feed her? I'm just going to go upstairs and do some stuff. And he was like, yeah. So he was in the living room, and the way our house is, you can't see the door to our hallway from the living room. So instead of going upstairs, like I said I was going to do, I went into the hallway, put my shoes on and walked out. And I just went. And I was like, I'm not coming back. And I walked down to the same cliff edges that I thought we were going to crash over, and I just stood there. And I did have for a split moment a thought of, I'm just going to jump off here. And I don't know, like, I just didn't think I could cope anymore, and I've never really told anyone the extent of my thoughts at that time, and I didn't want to come home. I just didn't want to come home. And Matt told me now, and I remember now because I looked at his phone afterwards, because I was wondering why he was talking to people about it. But he texted my best friend Amy saying, I think she has postnatal depression. She's walked out and just told her what had happened. And they were really worried about me, which they were right to be worried about me. And I came home, something snapped in my head, and I was like, it was another dark thought that snapped me out of it. It was, what if Matt kills her? What if he can't handle her and he kills her? So I came home, and it was at that point Matt said, I can't do this anymore. I know that you can't help feeling the way you feel, but you need to go and get help. He was like, you need to go and see the GP. So I made the appointment and I cancelled it, and I made it again, and then Matt was like, this is it, make or break, you need to go and make this appointment, otherwise I don't know what to do. He didn't want to leave me. He was not a bad person for saying these things. It was really tough on him, and I really feel for him, like looking back on that first year. I was not a good person to be around and deal with, and it really did take a toll on our relationship. So I made a third and final appointment, and I went. Now for me, my experience at the GP was not a good one, but I just wanted to say as a little disclaimer that there are so many amazing GPs out there, and I have a lovely GP now, but at the time the person I saw was not helpful. I got thrown a questionnaire at me, and I just got told to tick all these boxes. You know, the one you get with your health visitor. I lied on them with the health visitor all the time. I'd tick that I was happy and that was fine and all this so that I wouldn't get found out, because I thought that they were going to take my baby from me. I thought if anyone knew I had these thoughts in my head, that they were just going to snap her off me like that and I'd never see her again. And so I decided to tell the truth on this questionnaire. I really was proud of myself for telling the truth finally. So I ticked all the boxes, and I think I ticked every single bad one. I can't quite remember what the questions are on it, but you can Google the questionnaire. So, and Channel Mum have a brilliant questionnaire on their site, which I'll link in the description below, so you can kind of self-diagnose yourself, see if you are having normal thoughts, or if you need some help, or if you need to go and see a GP. So like I said, I'll link that. Sorry, my eyes really hurt and I've got like mascara in it or something. So anyway, he looked at this tick box list and was like, yeah, you've got postnatal depression, and you've got intrusive thoughts. You need this medication. Prescribed it, gave it me, said see you later. Now in hindsight, I should have told them on the phone a few of the thoughts I was feeling, and told them that I needed a longer appointment, because they don't have time to sit and talk with you in those 10 minutes. So if you do go and you do feel like you've been rushed or anything like that, just go back to the reception, ask if you can book a longer appointment, and please just do persevere with it, because like I said, looking back now, they don't have enough time. They just need a longer appointment with you. They need to get to know you. And if you don't feel like you can talk to your GP, if you can, talk to your health visitor, or take a friend with you to the GP and get them to speak for you, or write it down on a piece of paper, everything you've been feeling, everything you've been thinking, and just hand it to them. Say, I can't express these thoughts with my words, but I've wrote them down for you. And any way you can, just to get that help you need, honestly, you'll feel so much better afterwards. So with me, I've got quite an addictive personality. It's why I don't smoke, it's why I hardly ever drink, because I'm the kind of person where if something makes me feel good, I want it in excess, or if I know something's bad for me, I want it in excess. It's why I have to try and keep myself away from chocolate. So I didn't want to go on to medication, because I thought I would get addicted to it and I would never ever come off it, and I didn't want that. And don't get me wrong, the medication is brilliant for a lot of people. If they offer it for you and you think you'll do fine on it and you know you'll be able to wean off it eventually, then take it. Honestly, it saved so many women, saved so many people's lives and helped them. But just for me personally, that wasn't a route for me that I wanted to take. So for me, I wanted to do self-help. I wanted to get myself in a better place, because I knew that if I could get myself there, that I'd be more likely to stay there. So the first thing I did was I made myself go back to groups. I made myself get dressed that very next day and go to a play group, and it was the best move I ever made, because I made some lovely friends through that group. Some I am still friends with now, and just talking to them about how I felt, which was a massive step, because up until that point I hadn't even said it out loud to Matt, a lot of these thoughts that I was feeling, and I obviously didn't lay it all on them about all these thoughts I have, but I just said, oh, I've been to the doctor yesterday, I've been suffering with postnatal depression. And do you know what, as soon as I said that, about 3 other people in the room were like, yeah, I've been dealing with that too. And just sharing amongst us really helped all of us. The second thing I did was I took more time for myself. I made myself have more baths. I made myself do a lot of self-care. So just going for a walk by myself with my music on, taking time away from the baby, and just remembering that I am a person as well as a mummy. And then the other thing that's really helped me is this, vlogging. Now, you've probably not even seen half the videos I've ever made, because I used to get my camera and sit and talk to it like this all the time, and I don't have that footage anymore, and I wish I did, because I just deleted it. Every time I made something like this, I deleted it. I would sit and I would cry and I would scream and I'd get so mad at myself, but I would talk through all these feelings to the camera and let it all out. And this is my therapy. This is how I deal with things, by talking to the camera and just getting it out. And the last thing that helped me was online groups. I have a group of women I'm friends with online that have really helped me and really got me through a lot of dark days, and we've all been through similar things together. So, and now Channel Mum group as well, that really helps me. There are some brilliant forums as well on their website that help. And then, like I said, I went through this again with Toby. So my pregnancy with him was exactly the same. It was sickness and growth scares and placenta issues and inducing early again. With him, they thought he was still going to weigh small. He was estimated around £4 this time. So again, we were expecting a small baby, but he ended up being £7.5, so he just completely shocked everyone, which was a fantastic weight for 2 weeks early. But again, he was so short that he still had to go in premature clothes. And again, I kind of just went into that robot mode of feeding him, changing him. Everything that I went through with Livy in those first couple of weeks, I started going through again. But the difference was this time, Matt actually had the courage to say, I think you're going through it again. I think you're slipping back into old habits. And I again hadn't recognised it in myself. I'd kind of gone into that fog again. And as soon as he said it, I was like, oh my God, yeah, I have. And I was getting the dark thoughts again. I was thinking about him dying and checking his breathing all the time and things like that. But this time, as soon as I recognised it, I spoke to my health... Oh, excuse me, sorry, I'm getting numb leg. So I spoke to my health visitor. I have got the loveliest health visitor on this planet. She is amazing and she knows me inside and out. She's just brilliant and I can't thank her enough, and I've had the same health visitor with both my babies, so that is a blessing. So I started again straight away, talking to people, going online, vlogging again because I'd slipped out of doing it while I was pregnant because I was just so sick. I didn't feel like picking the camera up. I wanted to pick the camera up and I really wanted to share my pregnancy journey with Toby, and I kick myself every day now for not doing it because I really wish I had have done. But I suppose I'd started slipping back into it whilst I was pregnant because of all the scares again. I just couldn't get into my head the thought of possibly losing him like I nearly lost Livy. I forgot to say as well, when Livy was little, when she's growing up, we had a lot of scares with her as well, where we did find her not breathing one morning, so we were in hospital for that, and then we had tons of problems with her feeding. She had really severe reflux, so I don't think any of those things helped with my anxiety and worrying about her because it was just added on to it. And Toby started with reflux again as well, so that triggered all these thoughts, all these memories of my time with Livy when she was a baby. And yeah, I just slipped back into it. So I again started self-help, self-care, like looking after myself. And one saying I love now is self-care is not selfish. Leaving your baby downstairs with your other half for a couple of hours while you go and get a bath and you pamper yourself and just chill out and read a book is not selfish at all. Don't think, oh, I should be doing the laundry, I should be changing the baby or feeding them. No, look after yourself because you can't pour from an empty cup. So do it. If you're feeling like this now and you're feeling crap now, stop this video and go and run yourself a bath if you've got someone there to look after your baby, or if they're having a nap. Sleep. Get some sleep. That whole saying of sleep when your baby is sleeping, you should listen to it, honestly. Obviously it's harder if you've got more than one child, but if you've got a child that's at school like I have now, even sometimes now when Toby goes for a nap, I'll try and have a nap if I've not got tons to do, but I do try and prioritise looking after myself and looking after my mind over the housework. So I think I've covered everything I want to cover. What I'm going to do is I've already asked on a few of the groups I'm on online if there are any questions about postnatal depression that people want answering. So I'm going to make a separate video answering those questions in about a week's time. So if you've got anything you want to know or anything you want to ask me, please pop it in the comments below, because I'll try my best to answer everything. If you don't feel like you can comment below, message me on my Facebook page, The Perks of Being a Mother. Message me on there. I will keep your questions completely anonymous. Anyone that's asked me on the groups the questions, I'm not going to be reading names out when I answer these questions. I'll keep it completely private. No one will ever know, and I'll just try and help you by answering your questions. I really do think there needs to be more awareness of this whilst you're pregnant. I got told a couple of times about postnatal depression, but it was never in depth or in detail about the kind of thoughts you could have or anything like that. And not only for the mothers, I think there needs to be more awareness for the fathers as well, because they need to be able to recognise these symptoms in their other half when they can't recognise it for themselves. So I really want to do something with this now. I want to help people, and I'm going to try and find out how I can do that. And even if it's just making this video, it's helping people, then I'm going to be really happy with that. I'd already mentioned the channel mum group. If you're not already a member of it, please go and join it. It's a completely safe space. No one will know you're on there unless you want them to know. And you can post anonymous questions on there. Failing that, go and join the forum on their actual website. I'll link everything below so that you can go and find it. But there is a forum on there where you can post anonymously as well, and there's always people around to help. Honestly, I'm on there a lot on the group. I don't go on the forum as much as I should, and I'm going to try and start going on it a bit more, but I'm always around on the group, so if you want to ask me anything on there, feel free. And like I said, if you've got any more questions, either message me or comment them below. I think I've covered everything. If there is any other details I think of that I haven't shared, then I will mention them when I do the Q&A video next week. So on the final note, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this. I know it's a bit of a long one, but I really hope it's helped you. I hope it's helped you understand me a little bit better. I'm very good at putting a false facade on for the world. I'm very good at painting my smile on and getting on with it and being quite proud. But I've realised now it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to show the sad side of me, I suppose, the side of me when I'm not having a great day. So I hope that it's helped you, and I hope it's made you realise that you're not alone, and that, yeah, I'm here if you need me. So like I said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.